At his best friend's sister's funeral, a Korean Mafia boss locks eyes with a woman dressed in red and realizes the most dangerous thing buried today isn't lying in the casket. If you love forbidden romance, dangerous men, and women who refuse to be controlled, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and comment your location below. I read every single one. Let's dive in. The rain came down like judgment, cold, merciless, hammering against black umbrellas and pooling in the gravel paths of Seoul's most exclusive cemetery. The kind of rain that didn't cleanse it accused. Luxury sedans lined the narrow road, sleek and silent as predators. Men in tailored black suits stood at measured intervals, their expressions carved from stone, hands clasped, eyes scanning. This wasn't grief. This was protocol. Kim Sung-hoon stood near the grave, shoulders rigid beneath a custom-fitted black coat that repelled water like it repelled emotion. Rain slid off the wool without penetration. His hands, tattooed with ink that told stories he never spoke aloud, were clasped in front of him. The Rolex on his wrist caught the gray light platinum, heavy, ticking. He hated funerals. Not because of death. Death was part of the work. Expected, calculated. But funerals demanded something he'd long stopped offering. Vulnerability. The performance of sorrow. The public display of what should remain buried. He was here for Choi Jun-hyuk, his closest friend, his right hand. The only man whose loyalty had never wavered, whose word had never bent. Jun-hyuk stood across from him now, statue still, jaw locked, fists clenched so tight his knuckles had gone white. His sister Ha-eun lay in the coffin between them, 24 years old, gone. Sung-hoon didn't ask questions. Not yet. Not here. The priest droned scripture in Korean, words meant to comfort but landing hollow. White chrysanthemums swayed in the wind. Mourners bowed their heads. Everything was as it should be, somber, controlled, respectful. And then she appeared. Sung-hoon saw her before he registered what he was seeing. A flash of red. Deep, unapologetic crimson cutting through the monochrome landscape like a wound. A dress silk, draped, clinging to a body that moved with purpose, not performance. Over it, a black coat, open, rain-soaked. Her skin was a warm, rich brown that seemed to glow even under storm clouds. Natural curls framed her face, wild from humidity, defiant against the rain. She stood apart from the crowd, alone. Not out of discomfort, but by choice. She wasn't performing grief. She was grief. Sung-hoon's breath caught. Just for a second. Just enough to throw him off balance. Who was she? She didn't belong to this world, the world of armed guards and blood oaths and men who spoke in silence. And yet she stood there, shoulders back, chin lifted, tears streaming openly down her face as if shame had no place here. The priest's voice faded. The rain became background noise. The world narrowed to a single focal point. Her. As if sensing the weight of his stare, she turned. Their eyes met. It wasn't attraction. Not yet. It was recognition, the kind that happens between two people who carry the same scars but wear them differently. Her gaze didn't waver, didn't soften. She looked at him the way you look at something dangerous and decide not to run. Sung-hoon felt something crack inside his chest. Not break, crack, like ice over deep water. He didn't know her name. He didn't know why Ha-eun had never mentioned her. But in that suspended moment, rain falling, rose petals scattering across the wet grass like drops of blood, he knew one thing with startling, unsettling certainty. She was about to ruin him. The ceremony continued in blurred motion. Prayers. Bows. The casket lowered into earth. Someone handed him a white rose. He dropped it into the grave without looking, but his mind was elsewhere. When the crowd began to disperse toward black cars and hushed conversations, Sung-hoon remained. So did she. Jun-hyuk was speaking to family, his voice a monotone. Sung-hoon approached the woman in red slowly, deliberately. Not as a predator, not as a boss. As a man trying to understand why the ground beneath him suddenly felt unstable. She didn't flinch when he stopped beside her, just kept staring at the grave. "You knew Ha-eun," he said. "Not a question." "I did." Her voice was low, textured with accent, Jamaican. Soft around the edges but firm at the core. "She was my best friend." Silence stretched. Rain drummed. "She never mentioned you," Sung-hoon said carefully. The woman turned to him fully now, and up close. She was even more devastating. Eyes dark and ancient, lips pressed into a line that held back more than words. "She wouldn't have," the woman replied. "Your world didn't know about me. That was the point." His jaw tightened. "My world?" She glanced at the armed men, the luxury cars, the way mourners avoided eye contact with him. "Don't insult me by pretending," she said softly, but the steel in her voice was unmistakable. "I know who you are, Kim Sung-hoon, and I know why Ha-eun was afraid." The rain seemed to fall harder. Sung-hoon's pulse spiked not from anger, but from the sudden, jarring truth in her words. "What did she tell you?" he asked, voice dropping to something quieter. "Dangerous." The woman in red held his gaze, unflinching, enough to know she shouldn't have died. Kim Sung-hoon was not a man who asked questions twice, but as the woman in red turned and walked away, coat billowing, heels clicking against wet stone, he found himself frozen. Her name. He didn't even know her name. By the time he moved to follow, she'd disappeared into a black sedan with tinted windows. No guards, no entourage, just her. Jun-hyuk approached, face drawn, eyes red-rimmed. "Who was that?" Sung-hoon asked. Jun-hyuk's expression darkened. "Bianca Everard, Ha-eun's best friend. Flew in from Jamaica yesterday. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because Ha-eun made me promise to keep her away from all of this." Jun-hyuk's voice cracked. She wanted Bianca safe. Sung-hoon stared at the empty road where the sedan had vanished. Safe. The word felt like a threat. Bianca Everard had learned early that grief was a language most people refused to speak fluently. They danced around it, dressed it up in platitudes, buried it beneath casseroles and condolence cards. But grief, real grief, was raw. It was the kind of thing that made you wear red to a funeral because your best friend once said black made her feel invisible. Ha-eun had never wanted to be invisible. The hotel room in Gangnam was too clean, too quiet. Bianca sat on the edge of the bed, still in the red dress, mascara smudged, staring at her phone. The last text from Ha-eun glowed on the screen, sent 3 weeks ago. "Bianca, if something happens to me, don't ask questions. Just know I loved you. You were the only real thing." Bianca had replied with a laughing emoji and "girl, stop being dramatic." She hadn't known, hadn't seen, hadn't saved her. The flight from Kingston to Seoul had been 17 hours of numbness. She'd watched the clouds, felt nothing, and wondered how you were supposed to breathe when half your soul had been ripped out. Ha-eun had been more than a friend, she'd been a sister, a lifeline, the person who saw Bianca when the world looked through her. They'd met in university, Ha-eun studying international business, Bianca in interior design. 2 women navigating spaces that didn't always make room for them. They'd bonded over late-night ramen, shared trauma, and the understanding that survival sometimes meant reinventing yourself daily. But Ha-eun had changed in the last year. Bianca remembered the video calls, how Ha-eun's laughter had grown thinner, how she'd glance over her shoulder mid-conversation, how she'd started saying, "I can't talk about that more than I miss you." "Are you safe?" Bianca had asked once. "Define safe," Ha-eun had replied, and the hollowness in her eyes had said everything. Bianca had pushed, Ha-eun had deflected, and now there was only a grave and unanswered questions. The knock on the hotel door came at 9 p.m. Bianca opened it to find a man in a black suit, expressionless, holding an envelope. "Miss Everard?" he said in accented English. "Mr. Kim requests your presence." She should have said no, should have slammed the door. But grief makes you reckless, and Bianca needed answers more than she needed safety. "Where?" she asked. "Downstairs. Private dining room." Kim Sung-hoon stood when she entered. The room was minimalist, low lighting, a single table, 2 chairs, no guards visible, but Bianca felt their presence like static. He'd changed from the funeral suit into something simpler, black shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, exposing the ink that crawled up his forearms. His face was unreadable, but his eyes dark, sharp, weighted, tracked her every movement. "You didn't have to come," he said. "You didn't give me a choice," Bianca replied, sitting without invitation. A faint smile touched his lips. "Respect, maybe, or recognition." "I wanted to talk about Ha-eun," he said, sitting across from her. "Away from Jun-hyuk. Away from—" he gestured vaguely. "All of it." Bianca folded her arms. "Then talk." Sung-hoon poured 2 glasses of whiskey, slid one toward her. She didn't touch it. "You said she was afraid," he began carefully. "I need to know what she told you." "Why? So you can clean up whatever mess got her killed?" His jaw tightened. "So I can find who's responsible." Bianca leaned forward. "You're responsible. You and whatever world you dragged her into." Silence. Heavy, suffocating. "You're not wrong," Sung-hoon said quietly. The admission surprised her. She'd expected denial, deflection, the kind of arrogance men like him wore like armor. But there was something broken in his voice. Something that sounded like guilt. "She told me she was scared," Bianca said finally. That people around her were lying. That she'd seen something she wasn't supposed to see. She paused. She said if anything happened to her, it wouldn't be an accident. Sung-hoon's knuckles whitened around his glass. Did she say who? No. She stopped telling me things after Junhyuk warned her I was asking too many questions. Junhyuk warned her? Bianca nodded. He said keeping me in the dark was keeping me alive. Sung-hoon exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. For the first time, Bianca saw past the controlled exterior, saw exhaustion, saw a man carrying weight he couldn't put down. I didn't know, he said. I should have, but I didn't. Why should I believe you? He met her gaze. You shouldn't, but I'm going to find the truth anyway, with or without your trust. Bianca studied him. The way he held himself restrained, deliberate, the way grief sat in the shadows under his eyes. He wasn't performing. He was fractured. She talked about you once, Bianca said softly. Called you the most dangerous man she'd ever met. But also the saddest. Sung-hoon looked away. She wasn't wrong, he murmured. They talked for an hour. Not about the Mafia, not about death. About Ha-eun. Her laugh, her stubbornness. The way she'd hum off key when she was nervous. Sung-hoon shared stories Bianca had never heard, how Ha-eun had once scolded him for smoking. How she'd insisted on teaching him to make kimchi even though he had chefs. She saw people, Sung-hoon said. Not what they were, who they could be. She saw you, Bianca replied. She saw someone who didn't exist anymore. Bianca's chest tightened. Maybe he still does. Their eyes met. Held. The air shifted. Not into attraction, not yet, but into recognition. Two people drowning in the same ocean, reaching for anything solid. A soft knock interrupted. A guard entered, whispered in Korean. Sung-hoon's expression hardened instantly. He stood. You need to go back to your hotel, he said. Now. What's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about. Bianca stood, anger flashing. Don't do that. Don't decide what I need. He stepped closer. Not threatening. Protective. Bianca, he said, her name rough in his mouth. People are watching. And if they think you matter to me, you become a target. Do I? She challenged. Matter to you? His silence was answer enough. Outside the restaurant, Junhyuk waited by a black sedan. His face was stone, but his eyes burned when he saw them together. Hyung, he said to Sung-hoon. We need to talk. Sung-hoon nodded. Turned to Bianca. Go, he said. Please. Bianca held his gaze a moment longer, then walked toward the waiting car. But before she got in, she turned back. Do you know why she was afraid? She asked. Sung-hoon's face was unreadable. Not yet, he said. But I will. The promise in his voice was a weapon. The war room was exactly what it sounded like. Concrete walls, no windows, a single table with maps, ledgers, and photographs, spread like autopsy reports. Sung-hoon stood at the head, Junhyuk to his right, 3 lieutenants seated in silence. The air smelled of cigarette smoke and unspoken accusations. Someone's skimming, Sung-hoon said, voice flat. Port shipments. 3 months of discrepancies. The lieutenants exchanged glances. Lee Min-jae, the oldest, spoke first. Could be the Yakuza. They've been... It's not external. Sung-hoon's tone cut like wire. It's one of us. Silence. Junhyuk's jaw worked. He hadn't spoken since they'd left the restaurant. Hadn't looked at Sung-hoon directly. Ha-eun found the records, Sung-hoon continued. 2 weeks before she died. The room went cold. You think... Min-jae started. I don't think... I know. Sung-hoon placed a folder on the table. She made copies. Hid them. I found them in her apartment. Junhyuk's head snapped up. You went through her things? I did my job. She was my sister, and she was killed for what she knew. Sung-hoon's voice didn't rise, but the violence in it filled the room. So yes, I went through her things, because unlike you, I'm not letting grief make me blind. Junhyuk stood, chair scraping. You don't get to talk about grief. You don't feel anything. Sung-hoon met his eyes. I feel everything. I just don't let it make me weak. The words hung like a blade. Junhyuk left without another word. Bianca received the warning the next morning. A note, slipped under her hotel door. No signature. Go home. Seoul isn't safe for outsiders who ask questions. She stared at it over coffee, hands steady despite the tremor in her chest. Someone knew she'd met with Sung-hoon. Someone was watching. Good. Let them watch. Let them see she wasn't afraid. She was. But fear had never stopped her before. Sung-hoon showed up at her hotel that evening. No warning. Just a knock, and his voice through the door. "It's me." She opened it. He looked exhausted, tie loose, shirt wrinkled, shadows carved deep under his eyes. "You can't be here," she said. "I know." He stepped inside anyway. "You got a note. How did you—" She stopped. "Of course you know. I'm assigning you security." "No, Bianca. No." She crossed her arms. "I'm not a thing you protect because it makes you feel better. I didn't ask for guards. You didn't ask to be in danger either. Maybe I was always in danger. Maybe Ha-Un's world was always going to touch mine." Her voice softened. "You don't get to control this." Sung-hoon stared at her. Something shifted in his expression, frustration melting into something raw. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "Do what?" "Care." The word sounded foreign in his mouth. Without breaking things. Bianca stepped closer. Not touching, just present. "Then maybe stop trying to control the breaking," she said quietly. "And just be here." The space between them hummed. Sung-hoon's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, swore softly in Korean. "I have to go." "I know." He hesitated at the door. "The note. It came from someone inside my organization." Bianca's blood chilled. "How do you know?" "Because only 5 people knew you met with me, and one of them is dead." He left before she could respond. At 3 a.m., Sung-hoon sat in his office, alone, staring at financial records that read like confessions. The corruption went deeper than he'd thought. Months of siphoned funds, falsified shipments, and Ha-Un, brilliant, doomed Ha-Un, had connected the dots. The name at the center of it all made his stomach turn. Park Dong-wook, his oldest lieutenant, the man who'd helped build this empire. Betrayal was a knife, but betrayal from family was a bullet. Sung-hoon picked up his phone, dialed. "Bring him in," he said. Quietly. The safe house was 40 minutes outside Seoul, concrete, isolated. The kind of place where sound didn't carry, and secrets stayed buried. Bianca hadn't planned to be here. But when Sung-hoon's guard showed up at her hotel with a single sentence, "He said you'd want to know the truth," she'd followed. Now she stood in a sparse room, watching through one-way glass as Sung-hoon interrogated Park Dong-wook. The older man was bound to a chair, defiant despite the blood crusting his lip. "You don't understand," Dong-wook started. "I understand perfectly." Sung-hoon's voice was arctic. "You stole from me. You let Ha-Un die to cover it." She was going to expose everything, the whole organization. She was 24 years old. The roar came from somewhere primal. Sung-hoon slammed his hand on the table. She was Jun-hyuk's sister. She was... His voice broke. She was innocent. Dong-wook spat blood. "No one in this world is innocent. Not even you." Sung-hoon went still. Dangerously still. "You're right," he said softly. "But I'm not the one tied to a chair." Later, after Dong-wook had been removed alive, barely Sung-hoon found Bianca on the safe house balcony. She was staring at the city lights below, arms wrapped around herself. "You shouldn't have seen that," he said. "Probably not." She didn't look at him. "Is that what your life is? Hurting people?" "Sometimes." "Does it ever stop hurting you back?" Silence. Sung-hoon stepped beside her, close enough to feel her warmth, far enough to maintain distance. "I was 8 when I killed my first man," he said. "Not a confession, a fact. He was my mother's boyfriend. He beat her. I used a kitchen knife. 32 times. Bianca's breath caught. They called it self-defense. Put me in the system. By 15, I was running with gangs. By 20, I was running them." He paused. "I tell myself the violence is necessary, that it protects something. But the truth, I think I'm just good at it. And that terrifies me more than anything." Bianca finally looked at him. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you asked if it hurts." His eyes were raw. "It never stops. Every person I break breaks me back. But I don't know how to stop. I don't know what I'd be without it. You'd be human." "I'm not sure that's enough." Bianca reached out. Not touching, just her hand hovering near his. "Maybe it doesn't have to be," she said softly. "Maybe enough is just trying." Sung-hoon looked at her hand. At the gap between them, he didn't close it. But he didn't pull away either. They talked until dawn. About loss. About the versions of themselves they'd buried. Bianca told him about growing up in Kingston. About her father who left. About learning early that survival meant making yourself indispensable. Sung-hoon told her about the boy he'd been. About wanting to be a teacher once. About how violence had slowly replaced dreams until he couldn't remember what dreaming felt like. "Ha-Un saw that boy," Bianca said. "The one who wanted to teach. He's dead." "Maybe." Or maybe he's just scared. Their eyes met, held. The sun rose behind them, painting everything gold. And then gunfire. Glass shattered. Sung-hoon tackled Bianca to the ground, his body shielding hers. Bullets tore through the balcony, concrete exploding, wood splintering. "Stay down," he barked. Guards flooded the room, returning fire. The attack lasted 90 seconds. An eternity compressed. When silence returned, Sung-hoon pulled Bianca up, checking her for wounds. "You're okay. You're okay." She was shaking, not from fear, from fury. "This is your life," she said. "This is what loving you means." Sung-hoon's face crumbled. "I know. I can't." Her voice broke. "I can't watch you die." "Then go." It cost him everything to say it. "Go home. Forget this. Forget me." Bianca stared at him, tears streaking her face. "I wish I could," she whispered. But she didn't move. And neither did he. Jun-hyuk found them in the aftermath. Bianca was being checked by a medic. Sung-hoon was on the phone, snapping orders in Korean. Blood on his shirt, not his. "Hyung," Jun-hyuk said. His voice was hollow. Sung-hoon turned. "Not now. Now." Jun-hyuk's hand trembled on the gun at his hip. "We need to talk. Alone." Sung-hoon's eyes narrowed, but he nodded. They stood in the safe house basement. Cold, concrete, honest. "You've been investigating without me," Jun-hyuk said. "I've been doing my job." "Your job got my sister killed." The accusation landed like a fist. Sung-hoon's composure finally fractured. "You think I don't know that? You think I don't see her face every time I close my eyes? Then why didn't you protect her?" "Because I didn't know she needed protecting. Because she hid what she found. Because," he stopped, "because I failed." Jun-hyuk's face twisted. "You failed. And now you're dragging Bianca into it. She chose to stay. Because you made her care." Jun-hyuk stepped closer. "You poison everything you touch. My sister. Our brotherhood. Now her. Careful," Sung-hoon warned. "Or what? You'll kill me too?" The air went nuclear. Sung-hoon moved fast, grabbed Jun-hyuk by the collar, slammed him against the wall. "I loved your sister," he hissed. "Like family. And I will burn this entire empire to find who took her. But don't you ever accuse me of not caring." Jun-hyuk shoved him back. "Then prove it. Step away from Bianca. Send her home. That's her choice. Not mine. It's never a choice with you. It's just ownership." The word hit deeper than any bullet. Sung-hoon released him, stepped back. "Get out," he said quietly. Jun-hyuk straightened his jacket. "Ha-eun died because she saw the corruption. Because she was going to expose it." He paused at the door. "And the name she found? It wasn't just Dong-wook." Sung-hoon froze. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you need to look closer at who benefits from her silence." He left. Bianca overheard the last part. She stood in the hallway, heart pounding, as Sung-hoon emerged. He saw her, knew she'd heard. "How much?" he asked. "Enough." He waited. "Was he right?" Bianca asked. "Do you poison everything?" Sung-hoon wanted to lie, to protect her from the truth, but she'd asked for honesty. "Yes," he said. "I do." Bianca's eyes filled. "Then why should I stay?" "You shouldn't." "Stop telling me what to do," she snapped. "I'm asking you, why do you want me to stay?" The question hung between them. Sung-hoon stepped closer. Close enough to touch. Didn't. "Because for the first time in 15 years, he said, voice raw, "I feel like I'm drowning. And you're the only thing that feels like air." Bianca's breath hitched. "That's not fair," she whispered. "I know. I should leave." "You should." She didn't move. Neither did he. "I'm not Ha-eun," Bianca said finally. "I won't let you hide me, control me, decide for me. I know. If I stay, it's as myself, not as someone you protect. I understand." "Do you?" Sung-hoon met her eyes. "No, but I'll try." Bianca stared at him, searching. Then she turned, walked away, and Sung-hoon let her. She didn't go home, but she didn't stay either. She went to Ha-eun's apartment, used the key Ha-eun had mailed her months ago. Inside, it smelled like jasmine and grief. Bianca sat on Ha-eun's bed, surrounded by memories, and finally let herself break. They came for Bianca 3 days later, not with guns, with silence. She was leaving Ha-eun's apartment, carrying a box of belongings, when the van pulled up. 2 men, professional, efficient. "Miss Everard, get in." "No." A gun appeared, not pointed, just present. "Please don't make this difficult." Bianca's heart hammered, but her voice stayed steady. I'm not going anywhere. The man smiled. That's what Ha-un said too. The threat was clear. Bianca got in the van. Sung-hoon was in a meeting when the call came. The number was unknown. He almost didn't answer. Yes, we have something that belongs to you. The voice was distorted, mechanical. Sung-hoon's blood iced. Who is this? Someone tired of your meddling. Ha-un found the accounts. You found Dong-wook. Now we have the girl. If you hurt her, you'll what? Burn the city? We're counting on it. A pause. Destroy your empire, or she dies. You have 24 hours. The line went dead. Sung-hoon didn't panic. Panic was a luxury. He made 3 calls, mobilized every asset, tracked the van using street cameras, found the location, a warehouse in Incheon. He went alone. The warehouse was a trap. He knew it, didn't care. 10 men waited inside, armed, ready. Sung-hoon walked through the door unarmed, hands visible. Where is she? He asked. The lead man smiled. Brave. Stupid, but brave. I came to negotiate. There's no negotiation. You step down, publicly, transfer assets, disappear. And Bianca? Lives. Maybe. Sung-hoon's eyes went flat. Wrong answer. He moved. 3 minutes. That's how long it took. Sung-hoon didn't fight clean, didn't fight fair. He fought like a man with nothing left to lose. Bone cracked, blood sprayed, bodies dropped. When the last man fell, Sung-hoon stood in the center of carnage, chest heaving, knuckles shredded. And in the back room, tied to a chair, Bianca. He untied her with shaking hands. You came, she whispered. Always. She looked at the bodies. At him. You're covered in blood. I know. You could have died. I know. Bianca grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. Don't ever do that again. I can't promise that. Then promise me this. Her voice cracked. Promise me you'll stop choosing death over life. Sung-hoon's eyes burned. I don't know how. Then learn. She kissed him, not gently, not sweetly, but desperately, like she was pulling him back from an edge. He kissed her back, tasting salt and copper and something that felt like salvation. When they broke apart, both breathless, Sung-hoon pressed his forehead to hers. I'm going to destroy them, he whispered. Everyone who touched you, who killed Ha-un. I'm going to burn it all. I know, Bianca said. Just don't burn yourself in the process. They returned to Seoul as war ignited. Sung-hoon had declared internal purge. Lieutenants chose sides. Blood spilled in back rooms and shipping yards. The empire was fracturing. And at the center, Bianca and Sung-hoon, holding onto each other like anchors. The syndicate civil war lasted 6 days. 6 days of violence so brutal it rewrote Seoul's underworld. Safe houses raided. Loyalists executed. Traitors hung as warnings. Sung-hoon didn't sleep. Didn't eat. Moved through the chaos like a weapon made flesh. Bianca watched him unravel from the edges. Day 3, Jun-hyuk reappeared. He found Sung-hoon in the command center, surrounded by maps and bodies of lieutenants reporting casualties. I was wrong, Jun-hyuk said. Sung-hoon looked up, eyes red-rimmed, hollow. About what? You. This. All of it. Jun-hyuk's voice broke. Ha-un wouldn't want this. Ha-un's dead. And you're killing yourself trying to avenge her. Sung-hoon stood. What would you have me do? Let them walk free? I'd have you live. Jun-hyuk stepped forward. For her. For Bianca. For the brother I used to know. Sung-hoon's composure shattered. That brother died with Ha-un. Then find him again. They stared at each other. Years of brotherhood. Years of blood. Help me end this, Sung-hoon said finally. And I'll try. Jun-hyuk nodded. The final confrontation came on day 6. The remaining traitors led by Vice Lieutenant Kang, the mastermind behind the corruption, had fortified a compound outside the city. Sung-hoon, Jun-hyuk, and 20 loyal men breached at dawn. The firefight was biblical. Bullets tore through walls. Explosions rocked foundations. Men screamed, fell, died. Sung-hoon found Kang in the main office, surrounded by guards. You should have stayed out of this, Kang said, gun raised. You should have never touched her, Sung-hoon replied. Kang fired, missed. Sung-hoon didn't. When the smoke cleared, Kang was dead. The compound was burning. The war was over. Sung-hoon stood in the flames, covered in ash and blood, feeling nothing. Jun-hyuk found him there. It's done, Jun-hyuk said. I know. Then why do you look like it's not? Sung-hoon turned. Because I just murdered 15 men. And I don't feel anything. Jun-hyuk gripped his shoulder. Then feel later. Right now we leave. They returned to Seoul as the sun rose. Bianca was waiting. She saw Seung-hoon's face, the emptiness, the fracture, and didn't ask questions. Just opened her arms. He collapsed into them, and for the first time in 6 days broke. 3 weeks after the war ended, Bianca returned to Ha-eun's grave. The cemetery was quiet. Rain had washed the blood from Seoul's streets, but not from its memory. She stood alone, holding white chrysanthemums, whispering apologies Ha-eun couldn't hear. "I tried to save him," she said softly. "I don't know if it's enough." Footsteps behind her. Seung-hoon. He looked different. Thinner, older, like violence had finally caught up. "I didn't know you'd be here," she said. "I come every day." Bianca turned. "Why?" "To remind myself what I cost." They stood side by side, silent. Finally, Bianca spoke. "You destroyed your empire," she said. "Half your people are dead or imprisoned. Your name is burned. Was it worth it?" Seung-hoon stared at the headstone. "I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have." Bianca's voice sharpened. "You tear through lives, yours, mine, everyone's, and you can't even say it mattered? Because I don't know if it did." His voice broke. "I thought justice would feel like something. I thought avenging Ha-eun would give me peace. But all I feel is empty. Because revenge isn't healing. Then what is?" Bianca turned to face him fully. "Admitting what you've done. Choosing something different. Letting yourself be more than violence." Seung-hoon's eyes burned. "I don't know how to be more." "Then learn. Starting here. Starting now." She waited. Seung-hoon looked at Ha-eun's grave. At the woman he'd failed. At the life he'd destroyed. Slowly, painfully, he knelt. Not in prayer. In admission. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry my world killed you. I'm sorry that everything I touch." His voice cracked. "Everything I touch bleeds." Bianca knelt beside him, took his hand. "Then stop touching with weapons," she said softly. "And start touching with this." She placed his hand over his heart. They stayed like that, kneeling in rain and grief. Two broken people choosing, for the first time, not to break each other. Later, they sat in Seung-hoon's car. "I'm stepping back," he said. "From the syndicate. From Seoul. I'm giving Junhyuk control." Bianca stared. "You're serious. I've spent 15 years building an empire on corpses. I don't want that anymore." "What do you want?" He looked at her. "To try being human. With you. If you'll let me." Bianca's eyes filled. "I'm not your redemption. I know. But maybe you could be my reason to try." She studied him. Searching for lies. Found only raw, terrified honesty. "It won't be easy," she warned. "I won't let you slip back. I won't enable. I won't. I know. And if you hurt me, I'll deserve whatever you do." Bianca exhaled. "Okay. Okay? Okay. We try." Seung-hoon's face transformed. Not into a smile, but into something close. Hope. They drove to the coast. Away from Seoul. Away from blood. And for the first time chose life over death. 1 year later, the memorial garden was Bianca's idea. Built on land Seung-hoon had purchased outside Seoul. A place of healing, not violence. Trees planted for every life lost. A fountain that whispered instead of screamed, and at its center a statue of Ha-eun. Not her face. Just a woman reading, the way she'd loved to. Today was the anniversary. Bianca wore yellow. Ha-eun's favorite color. Seung-hoon wore a simple suit. No guards, no guns, just him. They stood before the statue as others arrived. Junhyuk, former syndicate members choosing legitimate businesses, families of the fallen. The garden was full, but quiet. Junhyuk approached, bowed to Ha-eun's statue, then turned to Seung-hoon. "Brother," he said. "Brother," Seung-hoon replied. They embraced. Grief and forgiveness woven together. After the ceremony, as guests mingled, Bianca and Seung-hoon walked alone through the garden. "Do you miss it?" she asked. "The power?" "Sometimes," he admitted. "But I don't miss who I was." "Who are you now?" He considered. "Someone trying. Someone learning that strength isn't violence. That protection isn't control." He squeezed her hand. "Someone lucky enough to love you." Bianca smiled. "You're getting better at words. You're a good teacher." They stopped at a bench. "Saturday. I'm opening a design firm here," Bianca said. "In Seoul, with Junhyuk's investment." Seung-hoon turned. "You're staying?" "If you'll have me." "Bianca." His voice thickened. "You're the only thing that makes sense." She leaned against him. "Then we'll figure it out." Together. As the sun set, casting gold over the memorial garden, they remained. Not a mafia boss and the woman who saved him. Not a tragic love born in violence. Just two people who'd chosen each other. Chosen healing. Chosen to let the past rest while building something new. Ha'un's statue watched over them. Silent. Eternal. And in the evening breeze, if you listened closely, you could almost hear her voice. It's okay now. You can rest. If this story moved you, if Seung-hoon and Bianca's journey touched something in your heart, subscribe. Share this with someone who believes in second chances, and click the next video on your screen because their story isn't the only one waiting for you. Drop a comment. Did Seung-hoon deserve redemption? Should Bianca have stayed? I read every response. Thank you for witnessing this love born from grief. Until the next story, stay dangerous, stay kind,